Welcome back, deep divers. Ever crunched a potato chip and wondered how they get that perfect crunch? Or maybe you've thought about the science behind keeping your favorite yogurt fresh for weeks. Well, today we're going to crack open the world of food technology.
It's pretty interesting, right? I mean, everyone eats, but who actually thinks about
Right.
how the food gets there
Yeah, exactly.
and how it's made and how it's safe?
It's exactly. You sent over a bunch of info from RoleCatcher about what it takes to be a food technologist.
Oh.
And honestly, I was surprised by how much it's not just, like tasting food all day.
Right. It's funny you should say that because a
Yeah.
lot of people, I think when they hear food technologists, they're like, oh, so you just get to eat food all day.
Right, exactly.
Oh, there's a little more to it than that.
Yeah. So we're talking about more than just making food taste good.
Mhm.
We're talking about the science behind the texture, the safety, the shelf life,
Yeah.
all of that.
Absolutely. So it's really like a combination of food chemistry, microbiology,
Yeah.
engineering, all of that gets kind of combined into this one field.
So for example, if I'm a food technologist working on those potato chips I mentioned earlier, what am I actually doing to
Right.
make sure they have that perfect crunch?
So you're diving deep into the world of starches, understanding how different potato varieties, frying temperatures,
Okay.
and even the thickness of the slice impact that satisfying crunch.
Wow.
You might experiment with different oils, coatings, or even use sonic vibrations during the frying process.
Sonic vibrations.
Yeah,
That's cool.
all in the name of science, right?
But that's what I call thinking outside the fryer.
Exactly. And it doesn't just stop at potato chips. I mean, these professionals are really
Yeah.
innovating across the board when it comes to food. Did you know that some food technologists are even using algae to develop sustainable, protein-rich alternatives to meat?
Wow. No, I had no idea.
Yeah, yeah.
That's amazing. So it seems like a food technologist's office can be anywhere, from a lab to a factory floor.
For sure.
It's a pretty dynamic field. What does a typical day even look like?
Well, it really depends, right? I mean, it depends on their specific role and where they are in their career.
Okay.
A junior food technologist, someone just starting out,
Mm-hmm.
might spend their day conducting experiments in the lab,
Okay.
maybe analyzing the properties of a new ingredient, or assisting senior technologists in developing a new product formulation.
So it's hands-on right from the start.
Oh, absolutely. They could also be involved in quality control,
Okay.
making sure that those products meet safety and quality standards.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be anything from checking the pH levels of yogurt batches
Okay.
to running tests on the packaging to ensure freshness.
So there's a real emphasis on getting that experience even early on in
Yeah.
your career as a food technologist.
Totally.
That's really cool.
And then as they kind of move up, a food technologist might move into more of a senior role,
Mm-hmm.
and then they could be leading the development of new food products.
Oh, wow.
Imagine being the brains behind the next big snack food craze.
Right.
Or they might focus on optimizing those existing manufacturing processes to be,
Yeah. Yeah.
more efficient or more sustainable.
So there's a clear path for growth in the field.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not just a one-size-fits-all. You could
No.
start in the lab and end up streamlining an entire production line.
For sure.
That's really neat.
Yeah, it's all about continuous growth and learning.
And with the demand growing all the time
Oh, yeah.
for a food technologist, I have to imagine that
Mhm.
the earning potential is probably pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're right. The demand is increasing. The need for qualified people is going up.
Yeah.
And according to RoleCatcher's data,
Mm-hmm.
the median annual wage for food scientists and technologists was already around $65,300
Wow.
back in May 2020. So
Yeah.
that number's only gone up.
So if someone's listening to this being all right, this is it. This
Yeah.
is the career for me. What would they need to do to get started?
Well, I think a strong foundation in science is really key.
Okay.
So we're talking at least a bachelor's degree
Mm-hmm.
in a field like food science, food technology,
Mm-hmm.
nutrition,
Mm-hmm.
even chemical engineering.
So all those years of chemistry classes
Exactly.
really paid off, huh?
Yeah, they were laying the groundwork
Okay.
for understanding food and how it's composed and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But even beyond the academics, practical skills
Yeah.
are so important.
Okay.
You need to understand the whole process
Yeah.
of food production, from start to finish,
Wow.
including quality control, safety regulations,
Mm-hmm.
and honestly, even a little bit of customer service.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Because at the end of the day, it is about getting the food
Yeah.
to the people who are going to eat it.
So it sounds like you really need an understanding of that whole journey of food from the lab all the way to the grocery store shelf.
Exactly.
But what about actually like landing that first job?
Right.
Because I know that even with like the
Yeah.
best education and the best skills, like it
Yeah.
can be so intimidating.
Totally. And that's where I think a tool like RoleCatcher is huge.
Okay.
It's really designed to give you an edge
Mm-hmm.
in this job market because it can be so crowded.
Right.
And one of the best features, in my opinion, is the CV resume builder,
Okay.
which actually uses AI to tailor your application to each specific job description.
So it's like having a resume writer
Yeah.
who knows exactly what the hiring manager is looking for.
Exactly. And it can kind of like speak their language in a way
Oh, wow.
and make sure that your resume is at the top of the pile.
That's amazing.
It doesn't stop there, but that's
Okay.
that's one of the best ones.
So what else does it do?
Okay, so like they also have this massive database of potential interview questions.
Okay.
So you can practice your answers, you can build your confidence before you even step into that interview room.
That's so helpful, though, because interviews are always like
Oh, the worst.
the worst. They're so nerve-wracking.
Yeah. So anything you can do to like be more prepared
Right.
is huge.
So we've talked a lot about the how
Yeah.
of becoming a food technologist.
Right.
But what about the why?
Oh, that's a great question.
Like, what's the bigger picture
Yeah.
of this field? What are the long-term, like, impacts and implications?
I think that's something that draws a lot of people to this career path
Okay.
because it's not just about like
Mm-hmm.
creating the next, tastiest snack food.
Right.
It's about addressing some of the world's biggest challenges.
Like what? Give me an example.
So like food security is a big one.
Okay.
As the global population continues to grow,
Mm-hmm.
making sure everyone has access to like safe and nutritious food is a huge concern.
Sure.
And food technologists are really like on the front lines of that challenge.
Oh,
They're the ones developing those solutions
wow.
to increase food production, enhance the nutritional content,
Okay.
reduce food waste.
So they're not just working in the lab. They're
Right.
like problem solving
Yeah.
on a global scale.
Exactly. Like they might be working on making crops more resilient
Wow.
or like fortifying those staple foods with vitamins and minerals
Right.
or even creating like preservation methods to keep food fresh longer.
So it minimizes the waste.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
And then there's sustainability, right?
Okay.
Consumers are more aware than ever
Mm-hmm.
of like the impact of their food choices.
Yeah, for sure.
And so food technologists are leading the charge there too,
Okay.
whether it's developing eco-friendly packaging
Mm-hmm.
or reducing the water and energy used in food production,
Mhm.
or even like researching those alternative protein sources that we've talked about.
Yeah, it's really interesting to think about how much goes into getting food
Totally.
from like the farm to my plate. It's like a
Yeah.
whole process, and food technologists are kind of like the unsung heroes of that.
Yeah, I like that. The unsung heroes of food.
Yeah. So as we wrap up our deep dive here,
Okay.
what's like the one big takeaway you want listeners to have from this whole conversation?
I would say like the next time you sit down to eat anything,
Okay.
just take a second and like appreciate the work of a food technologist.
Yeah.
Because they're using their knowledge and their skills
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that what's on your plate is safe and delicious
Right.
and, increasingly sustainable, which is amazing.
And for anyone listening who's like super interested in this field now,
Yeah,
be sure to check out RoleCatcher
definitely.
because their tools are super helpful.
We'll give you that edge.
From crunching potato chips to tackling global food security,
The best of both worlds.
who knew that the world of food technology could be so fascinating?
Right. It's pretty cool.
Thanks for diving in with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.